6.5. When the lights go down low and the wolves begin to howl, from somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal, you're entering into the Parabnormal.
There's a parallel universe, a veil that separates us from all we perceive. True reality. Open the gate, let the truth be known. It's more than meets the eye, we're not alone. Into the paranormal. Into the paranormal. Into the paranormal. Crossover.
You know, there is more to it, as Johnny Cobb sang there for us, than meets the eye. We are not alone. From the cold, dark depths of a secret dungeon somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest, I am Jeremy Scott. This is the program that is somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal. We welcome you back for another night of the show. Look forward to the opportunity when I can spend a few hours of my evening with you. Hope you get both hours of the program. If you don't, you can go to paranormalradio.com or find us after the show on podcast. It is free to listen. I'd like to talk about all the strange and unusual subjects. Actually, somebody thanked me for sticking to what it is I do. And this is my lane, and I try to stay in it. And I appreciate you coming back nightly and continuing to listen to the program and telling your friends and calling radio stations, because you're doing all of that stuff and buying merch. So just keep on keeping on, and we will sail this ship into the next decade and beyond, God willing. There's been a lot of fuel, as we say, to the fire of late. No shortage of material. I mean, there never is. There's so much weird and wackiness out there. If you asked me to pull up a show or a commentary on a subject in particular, I would probably be able to do an okay job in a, what others might say, short amount of time. A lot of that would be from memory and recall. But the fact is, there's just a lot out there. A lot of strange and weird stuff. And I like to talk about that with you. Of late, people are spending money, maybe because they're worried about losing it. You know, if aliens were revealed to exist. But people are actually spending their money. Got a frog in my throat for some reason. Get all choked up about this. They're spending their money betting on the existence of alien life being disclosed in the coming days, weeks, or even months, or years, some would say. There's been a large bet that's been placed, actually a couple of them, on a prediction market. The U.S. government will confirm the existence of extraterrestrial life or technology. That was the wager. An anonymous trader put down nearly $100,000 on the platform Kalshi, I believe it is. They put their money on the fact that the Trump administration will officially confirm aliens by the end of the year. But then shortly thereafter was another bet, that one almost twice as large. And so it's led people to believe, is this based on some sort of insider knowledge? I would have that question. Or is it just a lucky guess? Is it, part of the hype? Is it a part of the disinformation and the misinformation that has been going around with the UFO subject? Prediction markets, so for those who are not familiar and may not understand the significance of this, it allows people to bet money on real world outcomes. They do it for things like political events, cultural happenings, probably sporting events. I don't know that for sure. although there is sports betting, obviously. And the prices reflect what traders think is likely to occur. So take it with a grain of salt. The unusual wagers could simply be the actions of an inexperienced trader or possibly someone with inside information. I guess we shall see. But the bets come at an interesting time during a surge of public interest in extraterrestrials after comments by former President Barack Obama, seemingly out of the blue on a podcast, about the likelihood of alien life somewhere in the universe. And then President Donald Trump was asked about that, saying that Obama gave classified information out by saying aliens are real. Or actually, he didn't say aliens are real. He said they're real, but he was asked, are aliens real? So I just want to clarify that. He didn't actually say aliens are real. They're real, was his answer to that. So let's get that correct. Okay. But then President Trump directed agencies to review and release government files about UFOs. I mean, I don't know what files they would be talking about. They think that this is going to come in the form of, like, documents? You know, what documents that aren't redacted would do the trick? Videos, films, are there more of those to come? No, we want the bodies. We want the crash debris. We want the reverse engineered technology. So it remains to be seen whether anybody is going to make a fortune on the revelation or not. Some would say there are a few people making a few bucks out there on this. But there could be a run at the bank if disclosure actually happens. Oh, Jeremy, that is just so far-fetched. That's one of those conspiracies you pulled out of your rear end. Well, I have been accused of that a time or two before. But no, actually, a former analyst at the Bank of England has basically warned of exactly that. Helen McCaw warning that an official announcement confirming the existence of non-human intelligence could trigger severe financial instability, bank collapses, and civil unrest. She has urged the UK Central Bank to prepare contingency plans, arguing that such a revelation could cause extreme market volatility, undermine confidence in traditional assets, and prompt runs on banks, with investors fleeing to gold, government bonds, or cryptocurrencies. I feel like I have to put a disclaimer in here that this is not investment advice, but it comes from a former analyst for the Bank of England who has basically alluded to that of late. Oh, and by the way, 3i Atlas is going to make its close pass by Jupiter before it really leaves us for good. And there is a certain professor out there, a friend of the program, Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb, who has warned that there could be extraterrestrial probes that are released as a final trick. Because the object has been strange. I mean, comets generally are strange if we believe it was a comet. That's still up for debate. But the time would have to be now for there to be any sort of revelation as far as that is concerned, because it's not going to come back around ever again. And so all of this has people wondering, are we about ready to live through the days of disclosure? Again, this wouldn't be a singular event, but would likely take place over days, weeks, months, years. And what would the reaction to that be? Should we start taking steps now to prepare for what may be the inevitable? Tonight, my guests will be Ella LeBain and Mark Christopher Lee, and we'll kick it off next with them. I'm Jeremy Scott. open to all possibilities. Is this a misdirection act? Or is this the days of disclosure? And what would be the fallout of such a disclosure? How to prepare for a disclosure day, a conveniently titled movie from Steven Spielberg coming out on June 12th. We welcome back to the program Ella LeBain, an ET experiencer and UFO researcher, author with degrees in social sciences and astronomy. Since 1979, she's been investigating UFOs, alien abductions, and paranormal activities while also studying astronomy and astrology. She's the author of the Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo series of books and is a founding member of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Ella, welcome back to the program. Good to have you.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
So these days of disclosure, what do you know about them?
About what?
Well, all this hype. Is it anything to get excited about?
Well, definitely, because, disclosure is an era. We're living in it. And, the word apocalypse is Greek for revelation, which basically means disclosure. So we are living in the age of knowledge. So in the age of knowledge, ignorance is not really a choice. I mean, it is a choice for people who want to stay ignorant, but the age of knowledge means that everything that is concealed will be revealed. And that's what is predicted and prophesied, and that's the end of this processional age, what this is about. So we're at the end of the age of Pisces, and so it has to do with closure as well as disclosure. Closure on what began at the beginning of the age of Pisces. So history is important here because it tends to repeat itself. And, a lot of people get triggered when you mention the word the Bible or God or Jesus or anything like that. But the Bible is actually a historical record of extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional presence and intervention and cosmic warfare that have happened on Earth in deep antiquity. So if we know the past, we can understand the present and get an idea of where the future is going. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that is competing for our attention right now. It seems like UFO disclosure is, it's the gift that keeps on giving for sure. We've had a lot to talk about over the many, many years that we've been doing this program. But really, it just goes round and round and round. And, people say, well, they just overpromise and they overhype and then nothing comes of it. Has that been your read, or do you view things that have happened up to this point, from the perspective of the whistleblowers coming forward and the congressional hearings and the task force and the videos that have been released and all that? What's your read on that?
Well, it's a great time to be alive and to witness all of this happening. I think it's so complex and so multi-layered that we have to have it in pieces in order to digest it. If we were to have been given the whole thing, the whole enchilada, as they say, all at once, it would create such an ontological shock in all of us, regardless of where we came from and who we are and what our belief systems are. And they, the people who are in charge, they need to keep it together. That's their job as guardians. National security is to keep the status quo and to keep us protected. So protect the economy, like you were talking about earlier. And so it's multi-layered. So yes, we are in disclosure. Disclosure began with Donald Trump. President Donald Trump started it with an executive order that was attached to the COVID relief bill, December 27th of 2020. And it said that the government had 6 months basically till June 27th of 21 to produce a report on what they knew about UFOs. So we got a 9-page preliminary assessment, which was the tip of the iceberg that, started off a whole chain of events in Congress, creating a UAP task force and allowed whistleblowers to come forward and speak to Congress publicly. So here we are, waiting for the next shoe to drop. And that shoe is probably a boot because it's going, we're waiting for President Trump to address this issue. And, the rumor mill has it that he's going to give a speech on this sometime this year. So let
Apparently.
me... Yeah. And I'm sure that there will be something said. Maybe not everything, okay, but another piece. Because, his daughter-in-law sort of confirmed that. And, it's not just a rumor mill. He's going to need to address it. And he's already addressed it recently by ordering the Pentagon, Department of War to basically give up their files.
Okay, what files? Sorry to interrupt, but what files might they be? Documents or videos or recordings? I mean, is there anything like that that's really going to do the trick, or do we need bodies and debris?
Well, okay, so let's separate this between alien tech, okay, the reverse engineered technology, the nuts and bolts stuff, the technology, and versus the actual alien presence, the NHI, the non-human intelligence, the interdimensionals. And when you hear the Congress people like Luna, Anna Paulina Luna and Tim Burchett and, even David Grush, they're very clear about which words they choose to use. And they don't use the word extraterrestrial. They started using the word and non-human intelligence, NHI, or interdimensionals. Okay, so that's revealing. And the Pentagon, knows about these interdimensionals. They know very closely who they're dealing with and what they've been protecting the American public from. And here's where the catch-22, if you would say, or the rubber meets the road at the point we're at right now, because they're creating a block towards these files. And the files, in answer to your question, are all of the above. But it's basically about who we're dealing with. So I have connected some dots for people out there, and I've posted it on my blog, spirituallydiscerning.com, that the files that we've been given already, most recently, especially the last file dump on February 14th of the Epstein files, it contains information about the alien presence, and that the people on the internet, and the conspiracy theories and the Trump haters and all this kind of stuff, all saying, "Oh, okay, so now President Trump is going to come out and give us the UFO files." And he was also, words matter here, he was also very specific about his wording, and he used all 4 words. Because Congress changed the word from UFO to UAP, but he used all the words. He used UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrials, and alien and non-human intelligence. So that means beings and tech. Okay, so there's 2 levels to this. And so they're blocking this lately, okay, because, and this has been going on for a very long time. Nothing new here under the sun.
All right, well, it's new to me that there were aliens in the Epstein files. Ella LeBain with us. We'll continue as we prepare for disclosure tonight on Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott.
Paranormal News, I'm George Henry. A new study suggests the search for alien civilizations may be more complicated than scientists once thought. Researchers at the SETI Institute say stellar space weather around distant stars could distort radio signals from extraterrestrial technology before they ever leave their home systems. For decades, searches for technosignatures have focused on detecting extremely narrow radio frequencies, signals that are unlikely to be produced naturally. But the study finds turbulence in stellar winds and eruptions like coronal mass ejections could spread those signals across multiple frequencies. That broadening effect would weaken the signal and potentially cause it to slip below the detection thresholds used in many searches. Scientists say the research could help refine future searches by designing new detection methods. Hear paranormal news every hour on Into the Paranormal.
Are we alone? Are we alone? We may soon know, as the Trump administration is ordering the release of all government documents on aliens and UFOs.
There are individuals currently right now in the administration that are very keen in trying to get to the bottom of this.
Trump will be the U.S. disclosure president.
The aliens are real. Well, I don't know if they're real or not. They're real, but I haven't seen them. He gets classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that.
There's a lot of chatter about this potentially being a political distraction.
Because some truths live just outside the normal. You're entering Into the Paranormal.
And some of those truths are held under lock and key, with an armed individual guarding it, perhaps. Talking about disclosure, alien disclosure. Ella LeBain of Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, and that series of books, is our guest tonight. And you found that there was mentions of extraterrestrials in the Epstein files, and yet people are worried about, everything we've discussed so far being a distraction from the Epstein files. You say it's really just a continuation.
Well, yes, it's not a distraction. It's a continuation, and words matter here. Wouldn't call them extraterrestrials, but definitely aliens or interdimensionals because they live here on Earth, inside the Earth. So they're not extraterrestrial, they're intraterrestrial. And yes, the Epstein files aren't just a list of names. They're a fragment of a much larger puzzle. Beyond the crimes, lies this hidden history of eugenics and human origins and secret technology and alien influence and ET influence. And so what we're going to be, looking at into the future when this next layer comes out is evidence of a deep systematic manipulation by this is what they're trying to protect us from, these malevolent reptilian forces that have been influencing humanity since the beginning. And they're in the Bible, the Old Testament. Okay, so Epstein's niece came out as a family whistleblower last month and said that Epstein and the family worshipped Moloch. Now, all anyone needs to do is just go look up Moloch in the Old Testament, and you can see all the rebukes that the God of Israel gave to those who worship Moloch. And that's exactly what he was doing with young girls and babies and giving, blood and young flesh and kidnapping. And, this is something I started investigating back in the early 90s about the milk carton kids. Where are those kids? Now they're on Walmart boards. There's, hundreds of thousands of kids that go missing all around the world that never get found dead or alive. Where do they go? So, the answer is like a horror movie. It's worse than our worst nightmares. And our government, our Pentagon, our Defense Department of War, they understand this. They understand who these beings are. They've seen them. They've dealt with them. They've been protecting us from them. And that's
Reptilians?
one of the reasons. Yes, that's one of the reasons why they are blocking. So that's what the Collins leak. When I said there's nothing new under the sun, I meant that in our country. So, Lou Elizondo talked about them, called them the Collins elite, this group of top brass, fundamental evangelicals in the Pentagon. The late Harry Reid, the American senator, former majority leader, he also confirmed that these senior generals were blocking his efforts to even study the phenomena because they considered them to be satanic and demonic. And so what is interesting about the connection between the uncovering and disclosing everything about what Epstein was involved in, okay, and the alien presence is like there is the dot. That dot is so connected because his ranch, that Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, that was shut down by Comey's daughter, by the FBI. Now they reopened it. The governor of New Mexico is now reopening investigations after they've already sold the ranch to somebody else. But there were dead girls buried underground. There's a whole underground city underneath this vast compound that he was doing eugenics on. Okay, and New Mexico is also known for Dulce, which has this other underground facility that has to do with like 7 layers, like a building, like a 7-story building upside down into the ground. And Phil Schneider came out and told us about this in 1996, 1997, and then he was unalived. So anyone who studies this and puts the pieces together can conclude that there's this vast underground underneath our feet where these aliens exist. They don't always come up to the surface. They can shapeshift as humans. They use humans as containers. They told Bob Lazar in 1989, Bob Lazar had an interview with George Knapp, and he told George Knapp that he saw this big, thick file on religion, that the aliens had what they had on religion. And he felt uncomfortable talking about it. So he made him kind of paraphrase it. And he said, well, the aliens see us, humans, as containers. Containers of what? Containers of souls. And this is a recurring theme in alien abduction scenarios, memory stealing, energy theft, different types of vampirism, whether it's loosh, which is like the human soul energy, all the way to blood. Okay, which is what's in the Epstein files, is that they weren't just having sex with kids. They were having sex with kids to traumatize them, to terrorize them, and then slit their throats so that the adrenaline would be so high in their blood that they would drink it because they believed that this was the fountain of youth. And this is what the elites have been doing for centuries. It's in the Bible. It's an ancient cult, and Epstein worshipped Moloch, so he followed this cult. And this is what is coming out. So the connection between the alien presence and who Epstein was and what he did and Donald Trump. I mean, this goes so deep, okay, because at one point these two were friends, okay, but it was Donald Trump who we found out last month was the FBI informer on Epstein because they had a fallout because Epstein was trying to steal his staff, these young girls in Mar-a-Lago, and that's when Trump put his foot down and kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, and he was the one who informed the FBI, which started the investigation on Epstein, which created the first arrest. So everybody, I'm from New York City, and I grew up, Donald Trump was like, everybody loved Donald Trump. And then all of a sudden, maybe like right before he started to throw his hat in to run for president or change parties, went from Democrat. This is why they hate him so much. This is why the TDS, Trump-Drayton syndrome, is like an alien implant. It is off the charts.
We got to go, at least for the break. We'll be back with Ella LeBain, though. I'm Jeremy Scott, somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal. We're with Ella LeBain tonight. SpirituallyDiscerning.com is her website. Also, Who's Who in the CosmicZoo.com. Is there a demonic element to this as well, Ella?
Yes. We're in the Earth is a battlefield. There's been cosmic battles going on. It's deep antiquity over us. over the real estate of Earth, over who gets to fill the space between our ears. We are containers. The Bible says we're vessels. So containers, vessels, it's a thesaurus thing. It's one and the same. So we get to choose who we want to embody us and who we want to pray to and who we want to worship. And this is an ancient cult of beings that worship these reptilians, and they needed to make blood sacrifices in order to make these Faustian contracts for eternal youth or wealth or fame or any of these things that have been known to come about. And Epstein was part of it. And the Pentagon understands the demonic presence, the satanic side of a group of aliens. They're not the only group. There's a whole cosmic zoo of them. Okay, so they are working in agreements. You know, Chaim Eshed, the Israeli space chief, he wanted to come out and disclose about the alien presence in 2015, was rebuked, and he was told not yet. Then he went to the equivalent of the New York Times in Israel, the Yedidat Achronot, and he basically spilled the beans to them. And he talked about a galactic federation on Earth. And he said that they're in working agreements with the United States and Israel. They have joint bases on Mars together. They work together with technology. And President Trump knows about them. And that was in November of 2020. 1 month later, President Trump puts this EO in the COVID relief bill. No coincidence there. President Trump has known a lot more than he gives off about this situation, okay? It's a serious situation because it's very complex because of who is in an alliance with who. So there's the good guys, and then there are a group of aliens that are working against these reptilians that are trying to help the United States and Israel with them. There's these giant beings. There's these tall white beings. There's these tall gray beings. There's 35 different types of grays in terms of a species. Okay, so it's not just the reptilians, but the reptilians are definitely behind the Epstein behavior and everything he was about, okay, because he literally worshipped them. And so did all the people who did what he did and did business with him to buy children, to buy human blood, okay, because they believe that it's the fountain of youth. So the Collins elite, it's not about necessarily religious belief. It's about understanding this history of who they are dealing with on planet Earth. And if they were to allow all this to come to the surface, it would create such an ontological shock. It would have like far-reaching everything, not just the economy, the societal, people would freak out because it's not what they expect to hear.
Like pitchforks and knives running through the street kind of freak out, or what?
Yeah, well, you name it. Look at the way people are behaving today. I mean, it's all of the above. And it creates, cognitive dissonance as well, which is a mental disorder where we've been told a lie so often that when the truth hits us, nobody can handle it. And, I always think of that scene in A Few Good Men where, Jack Nicholson is saying, well, we're here on this wall to protect you because you can't handle the truth. So and that is the very reason why the Galactic Federation on Earth told Chaim Eshed, we're not ready. Humanity is not ready to know the truth about who they are yet. So we need to get ready. We need to work on ourselves. We need to talk about this. We need to have open conversations like you're doing on your show and other shows. And it's now becoming part of the mainstream. Wasn't like this 10 years ago. Certainly wasn't like this 30, 40 years ago. So it's come out of the realm of conspiracy theory into the realm of reality. And it's something that we need to have group talks about because it's not just one alien we're dealing with. We're dealing with different groups. They're not all on the same page. They're not all supportive of us. They actually see us as a human farm. Like we look at cattle, okay? We are not the top of the food chain, okay? And some of them actually feed off of us. And it's not just blood and baby parts. It's energy. It's soul energy. They want to keep us divided. It's a Machiavellian alien agenda. If they keep us divided and we're constantly fighting each other and arguing, we're putting off energy. And who gets to harvest that energy? They do. Okay, and this is why the Bible has the message of salvation and deliverance and freedom and liberation through Messiah. And we are in disclosure, which is also the Messianic era. The Messianic era and the disclosure era are one and the same, because it's going to lead to, first, a counterfeit Messiah, okay, that's going to come up out of the ranks of this alien presence, and then the real Messiah is going to come. Heaven is literally coming to earth. And all of this stuff is going to be like as if it never happened, part of history. People, our lifespan has been manipulated, genetically manipulated with. We used to live, according to the beginning, 900 and change. Most people are lucky if they can live to be in their 80s. We're going to get that back. We're going to be restored, okay, to be able to live to be 1,000 again. There are ETs walking around inside this planet that are 1,400, 1,500 years old, and they don't look a day over 35, okay? So this information, this knowledge, this eugenics, this is the stuff that is coming up. All right. So we have to be able to like integrate it, understand it, connect the dots to it, and understand that it's all part of our history. And so is this ancient battle, the battle between these fallen angels and heaven's angels over us. So the battle is real. Don't, you know, and this is why when they come out with this, whatever they come out with, they may come out with, okay, we're working with this group of tall whites, and they are, okay, they're helping them with different technologies and different things to help them in their war against the reptilians, okay, but, you know, everybody's got their own agenda, all right, just because they may be helping us doesn't mean, like, they're for us, you know, they have their own agenda. Okay, and the reptilians, they believe that they own this planet. They believe that they are the rightful owners of this planet. But when the end of the Bible says that when the Messiah returns, the kingdom of heaven comes to earth. Okay, and they go someplace else. They go into this place in the universe called the Lake of Fire, which is actually in the constellation of Argo. It is not on earth. Okay, so Earth is going to get transformed. This is what New Agers call the ascension. Okay, and our bodies are also going to get restored back to the original, what I call glory bodies, the 12 strands of DNA. We get to live to be 1,000 again, and there is no more illness, no more sickness, no more war, and we don't know how to do that, right? We're so used to the conflict and the strife. This is our norm. This is not our norm. This is abnormal. Okay,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
your show.
Certainly is. Basically, everything is coming to a head here.
Yes, it is. And people have to gear up. They have to get their spiritual guts and get connected with the Creator God. Okay, whomever you perceive him or her to be, get right with the creator of your soul. You are not the creator. People who go around thinking they're God, that's an implant. Okay? Who created the universe? Did you? No. Did I? No. The creator created the universe. We are part of the creation. And our souls are very valuable. Okay? So much so that they will fight over it. Okay? Your soul is valuable. My soul belongs to Yeshua. And I say that out loud, publicly. It's written all over my books because he is the liberator. He said, I've come to set the captives free. Who are the captives? That would be all of us. And who are we being held in captivity to? The reptilian presence that are overlords, archons on this planet. Ancient. It's in the records. And not just the Bible, all the ancient books. The ones that they deleted. The ones that they rejected.
Ella, what's your websites?
Spirituallydiscerning.com and Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo.com.
And how many books are in that series now?
Well, there's 9 books, but book 7 of Who's Who is coming out this year.
Right.
So Who's Who is, there's 2 other books that are kind of parallel.
Look forward to. We'll just like disclosure. Good talking with you, Ella. Until next time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Jeremy.
Between the paranormal and the abnormal, stick with us.
Into the paranormal. Into the paranormal. Crossover.
Into the paranormal with Jeremy Scott. Somewhere between the paranormal and abnormal.
You gotta have a plan. For a radio show, for life, your route to work, how you're going to get in and out of the store. It's just good in general to have a plan. We can question whether that's a good plan or a bad plan all day long. As we heard about last hour, possible ET signals may have been distorted due to space weather. I've certainly been saying for a decade now that we need to find another method besides looking for radio transmissions on a narrow frequency. So doing it a different way, which is, I guess, now what needs to be done. It has needed to be done. Might actually bear some results. But what to do if that day actually comes? We send a signal and we get something back, or we detect something on the incoming. We locate signs of life, or the world's leaders step up and make a historic announcement confirming the existence of extraterrestrial life. Well, there may have been a plan at one point. From all accounts, there is no plan. At least not a firm one for such a scenario. Current guidelines only show how scientists, say at SETI or other organizations, how they should respond if a radio signal from another civilization is detected. Yeah, there's protocols for that. And I guess it's it's possible that a highly classified government plan, the existence of which is only known to a few key personnel, is possible. And it certainly demands it, because discovering alien life would likely be the most significant scientific discovery in my lifetime, and perhaps yours, in all of human history. It would affect politics, religion, science, and our society in general, in unpredictable or maybe predictable ways. As I was saying, get out the pitchforks and knives. Somebody might. But different scenarios, say if it was, not a formal aliens are here and they've they've landed and they want to talk to us, or they're communicating through some sort of technology. Maybe it's microbial life. And we discover scenarios like that, microbial life in the solar system. Or we detect an alien signal. Encountering advanced extraterrestrials would obviously raise different challenges, and that could potentially bring planetary contamination. Also, how to communicate with them. And who would speak on our behalf? Who could legitimately, physically speak on our behalf? Because it's likely not physical speech from all contact accounts that we've heard throughout the years. And because of the potentially enormous, massive consequences, there's some belief that it's going to take global participation, all of the governments getting together, and perhaps even a global organization. Some have thrown out the United Nations and its Office for Outer Space Affairs. That should help coordinate an international response to what might be inevitable. To discuss this, we welcome back the author of UFO Disclosure and How to Survive It. He is also a filmmaker, journalist, and experiencer who has spent 50 years now navigating the reality of non-human intelligence. He's made several films and also written a few other books as well about UFOs and the paranormal. He is Mark Christopher Lee, and he's back on Into the Paranormal. Good morning, Mark. Are you awake yet?
Yeah, just about. Thanks, Jared. Thanks for asking me back on. But waking up.
And I do appreciate you coming on at this hour. People are, you do it live? We'll just ask Mark. He had to get up at 2:30 in the morning to do this. And in fact, when we booked it, that was before the time change. And so you have this weird period where I think like for a couple of weeks, Mark, over there, you guys are now like 7 hours apart from Pacific time. But then in a few weeks they'll go back to 8. It's just
that's right. Our clocks go forward in a few weeks' time, so we get more daylight here. So
right. So it'll go back to being 8 hours apart. But right now it's 7 hours, so it's even earlier. I thought, okay, it'd be about 4 a.m. That's not so bad. And then it became 3 a.m. I'm like, Mark, you sure you can still do this? So I appreciate it. But yeah, we do definitely need a contingency plan. You would agree. For the inevitable, which we've spent a good hour talking about, all things that have come to a head now, seemingly coming to a head. So then what happens?
Well, indeed, I just, looking into this, and it just seems to be that there's not much in place, like you said, and it's going to be the massive paradigm-shifting event that's going to need some coordination and some guidance for the world's population. And that's kind of why I wrote the book, really, because I've always been worried about this disclosure event, first contact, however you want to frame it. And that, I really believe the world's leaders need to step up, get coordinated, get this plan in place, because it's going to impact, everything from people's mental health to their place in the universe to finance, banking. It's going to have a profound effect, and we need to plan for every different outcome, I think. And we know governments do plan for things, like wars and climatic events. So, they need to step up and do it now.
Well, it's interesting because there's been some financial news surrounding the revelation of extraterrestrial life. First, we had heard that a former bank analyst at the Bank of England had said, this is going to cause a run on the bank. It could cause, civil unrest, definitely a financial collapse. It could force people into other investments. And then, of course, you have that followed up by these wagers, $100,000 and more each a pop. Somebody believes out there that there's a good chance disclosure happens this year, and they're willing to put their money on it. But the other hand is, if this happens, the stock market, there may be a recession. Is that possible?
Yeah, it's most likely, I think, from what I've gained from my research, is that the Bank of England, from the Bank of England analysis that Helen McCaw, I think her name was, that made these comments, is completely right. There will be a run on the bank. People probably will panic. Yeah, and the way banks operate, they don't hold enough cash for people to withdraw everything. And it could, and these things, panic tends to spiral. I mean, we're seeing it a little bit at the moment with oil prices, with the war in Iran. And where I live in the middle of nowhere. We have oil heating, and on the Monday, just after the Iranian attacks by President Trump, I couldn't order any oil. There wasn't any, and they couldn't guarantee what price.
So just imagine you don't have any oil, and then they've just disclosed aliens. Mark Christopher Lee with us tonight.
into the paranormal.
Preparing for disclosure tonight, 503-389-3131 if you have thoughts. I mean, are you worried about it at all? Is it all overhyped? Talking with Mark Christopher Lee tonight, who has written a book, UFO Disclosure and How to Survive It. And, as we were talking about his situation, you lost oil and maybe you have it now, and maybe there's an update to that. But for a while you didn't, and maybe you started to freak out. Imagine that in a situation where everybody's freaking out all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's still no with the oil. Prices are still going up through the roof. In the UK, there is some available. I think the issue here is, with my thoughts on planning for disclosure, is to be prepared, really, and also not to panic when it happens, because things will settle down. That's the good news, because we will adjust, governments will adjust, people will adjust, and things will go back to relative normality after a short period. But, regarding finances and banking, I suggest that people have some emergency cash at home, just in case.
It's not safe in a bank because that requires internet and maybe somebody to stock the machine. I mean, I just had an issue at my bank a couple of weeks ago where I went to take out $100 and it just sat there and goes, and it's like 30 minutes before the bank opens, and so you know what I'm doing for the next hour, trying to get my 100 bones back. That's just a small example.
Absolutely. And we had a little bit here during COVID where that happened as well. Initially, when lockdown started happening, people were going out, trying to get cash out, and they were running out. So I think you've made a good case that UFO disclosure most likely is going to happen this year. So, we can prepare now, be sensible, buy in various foods and things like that keep just, without worrying people too much. But it's always good to have a backup anyway. And then, when it does happen, just, take deep breaths, don't panic. If everyone stayed calm, the situation would be a lot better. I mean, it's easy for me to say that. People, especially in, populations, do panic, and that's the issue we've got here.
But inevitably, there will be some psychological breakdowns. People's world will be shattered, and they may go running through the streets with the pitchforks and knives. Maybe I'll even get another opportunity to bring that example up in the shows if I haven't brought it up enough. But mental health, people's well-being, likely may go downhill.
Yeah, this is the area that concerns me the most. Especially, I think people's mental health is at an all-time low anyway, just by the way society is, the stresses of modern life, lack of decent healthcare resources anyway. And you put on top of that some massive, possibly apocalyptic event, which more people might see as apocalyptic. And that's just going to, people on the edge anyway could be just pushed over that and think, I just can't cope. And, I hate to say this, but we have to prepare that, suicide attempts will increase and things like that. So it's providing people with resources beforehand. And this is where, leaders need to step up, political leaders, community leaders. They need to put plans in place now, giving out information that, who to contact if you're feeling, suicide or even just low, need someone to talk to, because, a lot of people don't have family or support or friends nearby, and if they're on their own facing this, that's the issue that, that could push them over.
Yeah, so when people's world just basically crumbles from underneath them, that can also force them to start to question everything around them. It could have a cascading effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think, okay, the government's announced, oh yeah, we knew about this, but we're just letting you have this information now. It's like, oh my God, the government lies about everything, and what else are they lying about, and what is real, what isn't real. You have these profound thoughts that, your whole paradigm shifts about your place in the universe, in society, or actually there's something else out there. And this could have a particular effect if it's found that UFO disclosure, they're not just disclosure that it's, say, alien life somewhere on a planet, but it's actually been here, interacted with us, possibly part of our existence is down to alien life. How are we going to be able to get our heads around that? And these are distinct possibilities. There's quite a lot of evidence for panspermia, which is like the theory that life here was seeded from elsewhere. So,
because what you're doing is providing us with an opportunity to think about what one day may be happening, and this may either be today, tonight, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next decade, we don't know. But when it happens, I don't see our government coming forward. They're not even acknowledging that this exists. So how would they even be prepared to address the fallout? And your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And from what I've kind of researched, you're correct. There is nothing in place apart from maybe some of the religious organisations like the Catholic Church who are a bit more prepared. But the issue is, like you say, it could be happening fairly soon. So they need to be acting now, preparing people. But in that act, are you then going to panic people by saying, well, UFO disclosures could be here very soon. There could be alien life, here or interacting with us. And it could freak people out beforehand. So there's no easy.
Do you think it would shatter religion more or education? Because it seems like with religion, in the Bible, as we were talking about last hour, there are a lot of these beings that are discussed. Some would say that's subjective. But in textbooks that you might find in a college, a university, high school, something like that, they're not really prepared to address this. Obviously, this would have an impact on both, but would one have a more of an impact than another, you think?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think that religion, like you said, there's a lot of evidence that, in the old religious text that interactions between humans and the divine have always taken place. You can call them non-human intelligence. And we've managed to live alongside non-human intelligence for, tens of thousands of years. It wasn't until the materialistic, reductionistic way of thinking with the Cartesian revolution, I think, therefore, I am, where everything is reduced into material elements, that the spiritual, non-human element disappeared. So I think eventually it will be okay because, religion has shown us that we've lived alongside angels, demons, for instance. And like the Greeks lived alongside their Greek gods, that was always part of life. But since the material scientific revolution, that's gone away. And, like I say, education, how are they going to then redevelop their thoughts?
Got to pause with Mark Christopher Lee. We'll be back with him. I'm Jeremy Scott, Into the Paranormal.
meteorite crashed into a home in western Germany after a brilliant fireball streaked across the sky over Europe last Sunday night. Fragments scattered across the city of Koblenz, and one of the pieces punched a hole about the size of a soccer ball through the roof of a home. Dozens of videos were shared on social media, and more than 2,800 witnesses reported the fireball to the International Meteor Organization, some as far away as France, Belgium, and Netherlands. People also heard loud explosions as the meteor broke apart in Earth's atmosphere. Several fragments have been recovered, which scientists hope will help determine where the meteorite originated. Astronomers say millions of small space rocks enter Earth's atmosphere every year, but only a few hundred meteorites are ever recovered on the ground. Hear paranormal news every hour on Into the Paranormal.
If you found out we weren't alone, if someone showed you, proved it to you, would that frighten you?
The challenge is, how do we adjust our economic structures? How do we reorganize our geopolitical structures?
A former financial security analyst who spent a decade at the Bank of England has warned Governor Andrew Bailey to prepare for total financial instability within hours of any official confirmation of non-human intelligence.
There's certainly going to be a shock to the system and a shock to a lot of people's belief systems.
Full disclosure to the whole world.
Whether it's unexplained or just plain strange, this is your kind of show. Into the Paranormal.
It pays to have a plan. You know, we plan for the program every night. As I mentioned, you probably plan your trip to work. I plan my trip through the grocery store, that's for sure. But what about disclosure and its impacts? Mark Christopher Lee tonight with us. UFO Disclosure and How to Survive It is his latest book. Mark also has an abduction experience. So a religion might take it a little bit easier. It might be a little bit harder for academia to accept, right, Mark?
Yeah, definitely. There would be a lot of catching up to do. I mean, we have to look at the context of disclosure. If we're disclosing the fact that there's intelligent life out there and it's been visiting us, then we have to look at how has it been visiting us, what technology is going to change physics, possibly, and also there's quite a lot of evidence to suggest that UFO-type craft are powered by the mind. So that opens elements of what consciousness is, the power of the mind, and things like that. There's all these different areas of it that are going to need to be addressed by, universities, research people, doctors, whatever. And there's going to be kind of new fields of education being formed. For instance, exopolitics, we've talked about that for a long time, but, how we deal as a planet with other civilizations out there, for instance, there's going to be that. There's going to be contact studies, consciousness physics, all sorts of things, and also about, okay, so they've got this technology, why can't we have this technology? How do we reverse engineer it and things like that? And it's going to take time to get our heads around it on what needs to be put into, education, research, and helping people adjust to this new paradigm shift.
Yeah, and perhaps some instruction on how to talk to children about it for parents and teachers, and also for healthcare professionals to talk to their patients about this.
Absolutely, that's a really good point, and we do address that in the book. Children is a fascinating one, and I think we have to be, especially younger children. They seem to be more in touch anyway with non-human intelligence. Kids have more paranormal encounters. So I think they're open to something a bit stranger that we as adults have had kind of kicked out of us in the material world that we've led, etc. So, but we got to frame it right, for the kids, that it's not seen as a threat that's going to damage their mental health and well-being. And also we've got to look at how we as adults, like parents, for instance, if they differ on, what this means to us and how they project that to the family group as well is important, because we're not all going to think the same about it. There's going to be people that are going to be blind panic, and there's people that are going to be, we'll just take it one day at a time kind of thing. So everyone is different. So there's no one size fits all, and that's an issue. But we need to have a plan in place in all areas, including, like you say, healthcare as well. So thank you.
What about a plea to the world's leaders? I mean, should they be coming together to make this happen?
Yeah, they should be. But, you know how fragile the world's political ecosystem is just by looking at the current war in Iran. How would that work? There's always a suggestion that there is some sort of plan, sort of group in place to deal with this, but there's no credible evidence for it. But, who would take the lead, for instance, on the political stage? Would it be the US president? Would it be the Chinese? Would it be Putin? Or, would it be someone like King Charles III from our own country?
Would it have to be somebody who has telepathic abilities?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Yeah, maybe we're looking at someone like Uri Geller, something. Someone who, possibly, someone who has, has that power, that gift. That is a really good point. But the fact is that we do need to have some sort of coherent group aligned with this to speak for the planet as such. And, I guess we would look at the United Nations, which is not that united, I guess you could argue. But it's going to need some sort of forum like that. That's why I suggested that King Charles III, the royal family is not particularly popular at the moment, but because he's not politically aligned, he has a spiritual role as head of the Anglican Church, but is also open and talks with other faiths around the world. So it could be some sort of slightly impartial figure with an open mind, which I know King Charles does have, that can try and unite people, unite governments. That's not an easy task, is it?
Would we know if the government had a plan? And if the answer is, well, yeah, we would know, and they don't, what does it say that we don't have one?
Well, what tells me that we don't have one is that we're closer than ever to possible UFO disclosure. Just from a scientific point of view, scientists are now proving that there's most likely going to be life in the universe, and they're going to find it soon, maybe on an exoplanet, maybe on Mars. So you would think if there was a plan, they would be starting to prepare the release of that, putting guidance out there.
Well,
small steps, but I don't see any evidence of that at the moment. There's a lot of talk about UFO disclosure, but not about the impacts of, unless we take the Bank of England person that came forward, Helen McCall, that maybe that was part of the soft disclosure. Who knows?
Well, they have just now figured out that the way that they are searching for these radio signals, the reason we may not be receiving any communications is because it's basically being absorbed by space weather. We can only wish that radio signal one day will arrive. Mark Christopher Lee with us tonight. I'm Jeremy Scott.
5. Roswell's Talk FM.
Scary to think we may not have a plan, especially if a hostile race of extraterrestrials were to arrive and want to pick a fight with us on Earth. I know, why haven't they done it yet? Good one. How would you react, though, if you had to change your whole perspective about life in the universe, maybe overnight? Although it's not likely to play out that way. It could, but it's likely to be a prolonged process, right, Mark? So we should prepare ourselves for that.
Yeah, we should be. That's why I wrote the book. We should be preparing now. I think UFO disclosure of some form will happen this year. Pretty sure on that. And I don't see much evidence that there is a plan in place. So let's do one now. Come on.
Right. Let's come up with it. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Mark,
absolutely.
What do you know about President Trump supposedly making an announcement later this year?
Yeah. Well, I was leaked information and from two sources. One, that there was definitely a speech. And the second source, there's a speech and also a date that he'll announce to the world, and that was July the 8th. I've just been open. I've had some issues recently with the second source is gone quiet. That the one that leaks information about the date, because this person was then going to give a press conference on May the 1st in Washington. So I've been pushing them for further details because people are asking me what's happening. So I don't know. This is not my, this is not my thing. I'm just passing this information out because I believe the public deserves to know. So they won't give me any firm, plans for this May the 1st date, where it's going to be, etc., what time, what's the format. And now I've got complete radio silence from this source.
That doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
No. And I'm 100%, well, say 99% sure that there's definitely a speech there that Trump has written, or has been written for him, I should say, and is ready to go. So I'm pretty sure that UFO disclosure is going to happen this year. Could be July the 8th. That's what I was originally told. And there's such a groundswell now coming out that, Lara Trump, his daughter-in-law, confirmed, yes, there is a speech. It's ready to go. Then we had the whole President Obama, and then Trump going back. You can't say about releasing, what's the word? The nation that's restricted.
He released
classified, is it? And then Trump said, I'm going to release all the alien UFO files. And, and it's interesting what his directive on Truth Social said is that he used the word complex issues. It's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. And he also used the word extraterrestrial. So he wasn't just, just towing the line to do something. He was actually mentioning extraterrestrials, and these are complex issues, which they are, in my opinion. So I think it will happen. What will be disclosed, I guess that's up for grabs. I mean, my personal take after all my research over these years is that it's not as simple as there's alien life on other planets and it's visiting us. It could be something far weirder, which is where it gets interesting with disclosure and how we plan for it. Because if it's something, say, interdimensional, ultra-terrestrial, for instance, how would we even prepare for that? That's just going to be the ultimate of messing with the mind for people's places in the world, in my opinion.
So again, to confirm, you got this information from two different sources.
Yeah. There's one source which originally told me quite a while ago that there was the speech, and I kind of just didn't really, I didn't pay attention to it, but I didn't go public with it because I think, okay, it's just this person, they're pretty credible. But then that was then confirmed by this other source who is well known. I'm not going to name them just yet. I'm trying to, hopefully they'll come forward themselves. And
is there a time where you would consider that?
Yeah, definitely. But I've just got to I've got to protect myself a little bit in terms of getting all my evidence of these communications I've had over the past couple of years in a safe place, without sounding too dramatic, that I'm covered. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Do you think that you were fed disinformation intentionally?
Yeah, it's a possibility. Yeah, I may have to be open to that. I mean, I did have to make this call a while ago whether to go public with it, because I knew if it all kind of blew up in my face, I would take a lot of heat, and that's what's happening now. And fair play, but I made the call to do that. And people have accused me of trying to make money out of this, and I haven't. I mean, people have to realise that.
What, do you charge for radio interviews or something?
As you know, I don't. But also, even my books and my films, I do as my passion. I don't make a living out of them. Don't make much money at all. Films barely even cover the.
You're a musician.
Costs. Well, yeah, my income is from that, which I've never mentioned. I've never said go and buy my records. They're the ones that stream my songs. My band, The Pocket Gods. They're well known. We have a large catalogue of music out there, and that's what keeps me going. So I'm not doing this for monetary gain. I'm doing this because I thought it was the right thing to do. And if I'm guilty of spreading misinformation, that I don't want to be that person. That's not good. But the person that gave me the information, when you find out who they are, I think, yeah, fair play. You did the right thing, because they are pretty well known. I tried to drop a few clues on my other social medias about who that might be, because it's really difficult for me as well, being a former journalist, and I've got that ethics inside me not to reveal my source. It's one thing you were always taught, and so this is why I'm hoping they will come forward and just put a statement out just to clarify the whole thing.
Yeah, Mark, I really appreciate you being forthcoming with this. I'll say I saw this on X just before the show, and I was like, is Mark going to make it? Is he going to back out? Because I just blasted a few people on social media for just not having the common courtesy to tell me off. Look, if you don't want to come on the program, that's fine. Go on another show that has a far fewer listeners than mine. I won't take it personal, but I don't want to keep chasing you if you want to come on the program. And there's only been a few people who have said buzz off. That number is 2 in the years. But the list is just a mile long of people who just, it's like the cat got their tongue. They don't know what to do. They're starstruck. I don't know. They don't get back to you. They don't reply, or they schedule interviews with you, and they tell you all is good and they're going to show up, and then they intentionally not show up. You find out that there's these cliques out there. There's these crowds within ufology, and they all kind of band together. They want you to believe that they're fighting, but they're really working in concert with each other. And if you have somebody on your program who they don't like or they have a beef with, they take that out on you personally. I mean, this is stuff that I've witnessed. And so if you want to know why certain people haven't been on the program, there might be a reason to that, or there might not. I'm just saying. I probably have asked, and they probably have just not returned. So facing the pressure tonight, Mark, you could have easily just slept in and said, screw Jeremy. And the fact that you didn't, and you showed up here and he answered some questions, and we had a good hour, really says a lot about your character, in my opinion.
Oh, no, thanks. I mean, for me, it's, doing this research is about building relationships long term. And I've been on your show a few times now. Really enjoy our conversations, which is why I wanted to do it live as well, because it makes it more of an event. I know it's difficult getting up and all that, but so I really appreciate speaking to you, and you've got an open mind, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely. My pleasure, and let's stay in touch, and don't hang it up just yet. You've got a lot more to give.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate that, Jeremy. Thank you.
Mark Christopher Lee. There he is tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Really appreciate him coming on the program, and to you for listening, friends. If you're picking us up on the radio, you just stumbled across it. Just know that we're here for 2 hours, and hopefully your station is carrying the entire 2 hours of the program. But if you missed it and you want to listen to replays or go check out other shows that we've done, approaching 900, in fact, we'll surpass that milestone at the end of the month. You can find that free on all the podcast apps or at paranormalradio.com. Until tomorrow night, good night, and God bless.
Felt a chill when no one's around?